Gabonese President Ali Bongo resists calls for a recount of votes cast in the country's presidential election. Do some lucky Nigerian tech companies have friends in high places? And luxury with a twist. The latest food trends from gourmet producers. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Tonight we begin with the election controversy in Gabon. Gabonese President Ali Bongo on Wednesday shrugged off international calls for a recount of the disputed vote and accused his rival Jean-Ping of electoral fraud. Mr. Bongo told a French radio station that a recount would be a matter for the Constitutional Court to decide. Meanwhile, opposition leader Jean-Ping says that the election was stolen by Bongo and he has no faith in the Central African nation's Constitutional Court because of its alleged ties to the Bongo family. In an interview with Reuters, Ping said that a recount should be conducted under international supervision. The European Union is questioning the validity of the results, and the United States and France say a recount would be wise. Now, the African Union says it is sending a delegation to Gabon to help resolve the election standoff. For more insight on the African Union's mediation plan, Jacob Eno-Eben, spokesperson for the African Union Commission, joins me from Addis Ababa by phone. Good evening, Jacob.
Good evening, Vincent, and good to be on your show.
Thank you. First up, do we know when the AU is going to send this delegation to Gabon?
The consultations are actually ongoing. The chairperson of the African Union, His Excellency Idris Deby Itno, is undertaking consultations, has been discussing with the chairperson of the Commission as well as some heads of state and the political leaders in Gabon. And so the delegation will be arriving in Libreville any of these days.
Now, look, I checked, and there were AU observers there, election observers, and they said the election went well. In other words, they actually endorsed the current president. Now, how well will the AU delegation be received when there is obviously a kind of a taking of sides in this case?
You're right. The African Union actually deployed an observation mission that this time around was combined with the observation mission of the Economic Community of the Central African States, ECAS. There was a joint mission, and of course the process leading up to the election went fairly well. But the issue, as you must have been following, has come as a result of the proclamation of the preliminary results of the August 27 elections. This is where the dispute has escalated, where the opposition has actually is disputing the results. So we are talking of a pre-election context which was smooth and peaceful, and a post-electoral context which has been characterized by the sort of violence and the bickering that we've been seeing in Gabon.
Yes. Now, Jacob, what is anticipated here? What is the delegation going to achieve? And have both sides confirmed that they're okay with the African Union delegation?
The first thing is that when the preliminary results were released on the 31st of August, of course, the results were greeted with an escalation of violence, which were condemned by the African Union Commission Chairperson, Her Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, and she called for calm and highest level of restraint, which was reiterated again by the chair of the union, and encouraged. They all have been encouraging the political actors to seek legal means to get a redress of the situation, the electoral dispute. And calm and reign in
Jacob,
as we speak.
Yeah.
The delegation is being deployed
Okay, we'll follow up. We'll stay with this. We'll come to you to talk to you again once the delegation is there. Jacob, thank you very much for joining us today. Now, that's Jacob Eno Eben, is a spokesperson of the African Union Commission. Well, a political storm is brewing in South Africa among members of the ruling African National Congress. Angry and frustrated, some party members have staged demonstrations this week demanding President Jacob Zuma and other top ANC leaders quit their party posts. The protesters argue that Zuma, whose rule has been tainted by scandal, is responsible for the ANC losing control of 3 major urban centers in local elections last month. They say his mismanagement of the economy has the nation teetering on the edge of a recession. The ANC's reputation was badly bruised by its loss of support in major cities. Political analysts say more internal ANC squabbles are likely to loom ahead. Now, for more insight on the political fallout from South Africa's elections, Mielani Mkhabela, Managing Director of the Antwiza Management Group and a political economist, joins me live via Skype from Johannesburg. Good evening, Mielani.
Evening, and viewers.
Yes. Now, first, how intense is this push from within the party against the leadership of the ANC?
Thanks for hosting me, Mr. Makori. What I can indicate is to depart from a situation where we'll say the infrastructure of the organization might be deeply paralyzed from within, whereby you will find different leaders of the organization from the initial board, we call it the National Executive Committee of the ANC, will be having different views about the outcome of the election. You will understand that the president has his own team or like cabal that has made him to be the president, and the other team that will be as well starting to differ with the operations of the economy and the whole running of the ANC in particular. Initially, I will probably indicate that there is high instability within the ANC on itself, and then these signs are starting to show up on a daily basis. And you will hear executives mentioning different aspects, highlighting much to say they are not happy with how things are being done, but partly.
Mielani,
yes.
Is this a question of the party just growing old and running out of ideas, or is it just that there's too much corruption or too much bad leadership within the party?
Absolutely, I won't say it's too much bad leadership within the party, because when you look at the NEC, it's about 80 candidates that are leading the NEC of the ANC. But the challenge mainly is more on the top 6, which happens to be the one that has to be driving the organization in almost a lot of aspects when it relates to governance. And the community or the citizens are continuously losing confidence in that, and also of that of the president. And you will find some signs of local government elections, and you see ANC losing at Tshwane, at Nelson Mandela Bay, and at Joburg, which are the key drivers of the economy of the country. So those are high signs that members on the ground or just community members, they are highlighting, or they are showing the ANC that they are not happy with how things are moving around. But in general, you will find that the organization has leadership, but it's the issue of governance and decisiveness of such leadership to have a collective voice and act on it.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And we know it's all about the economy too and poverty. Mielani, thank you very much for joining us today. That is Mielani, who is Mielani from South Africa, is a managing director of Antwiza Management Group and a political economist over there. Now, the African state of Mauritania recently handed down harsh prison sentences to more than a dozen anti-slavery activists. These prisoners are Haritans. There's an ethnic group that has been held in bondage for centuries by the Arab Berbers who control Mauritania's government and society. VOA's senior investigative analyst Jeffrey Young details the situation faced by Hariteens and the outrage at Mauritania expressed by anti-slavery NGOs.
Enslaved for life. For centuries, members of Mauritania's dark-skinned Hariten ethnic group have been bought and sold like cattle by the lighter-complected Berbers who dominate that Northwest African state's government and society. And when people, especially Haritans, stand up in defiance to slavery, the response has been harsh. This August, 13 anti-slavery activists with the Initiative for the Resurgence of the Abolitionist Movement, the IRA, were sent to prison after being convicted of charges connected to late June demonstrations by Hariten in Mauritania's capital, Nouakchott. An anti-slavery NGO, the National Underground Railway Freedom Center, says this was a perversion of justice. And URFC spokesperson Brooke Hathaway via Skype.
It's unfortunate that they have been both arrested and prosecuted and now convicted of a crime that they first didn't commit, and then two, should not be one that is authorized in any government in this day and age.
Mauritania in 1981 became the last country on earth to officially abolish slavery, but it is still pervasive, despite laws, including ones enacted in 2003 and 2007, that criminalized the practice. Human rights NGOs and others have estimated that up to 20% of Mauritania's population may be held in bondage. Anti-slavery activists assert that Mauritania's laws were enacted only to quiet down outside criticism and were not intended to be enforced. One of them, via Skype, is NGO Society for Threatened Peoples official Hanno Schedler.
We think that the government has created these laws mostly to please the European Union, the United States, who've been pressing for the enforcement of anti-slavery laws.
Schedler and other activists say the Mauritanian government rarely, if ever, arrests and prosecutes those who enslave others, and that there are economic and political reasons why this two-faced situation persists, as explained via Skype by NGO Anti-Slavery International's Africa Program Director Sarah Matthewson.
Well, it's a very lucrative economic system that a lot of elites have an interest in maintaining. And those are the elites that the Mauritanian government depends on in order to have power and to secure its power in the long term.
Mauritanian slave masters hand down their human property generation after generation, so control of a family's Hariten is always maintained. But not all Hariten are slaves. A number of those who are free and have education fill the ranks of Mauritanian anti-slavery movements, such as the IRA. In return, Mauritania has declared the IRA and similar groups to be extremist. But these anti-slavery activists refuse to be silenced. Again, Anti-Slavery International Sarah Matthewson.
So what IRA is doing is often perceived as very controversial. They have done a few publicity stunts that haven't gone down well at all with the government, but they are trying to do what they can to draw international and national attention to this urgent human rights crisis.
These NGOs and other anti-slavery activists say what's needed to change Mauritania's behavior is for international organizations and foreign governments to tie any engagement, money, or development assistance offered to provable adherence to its own anti-slavery laws, including prosecution and punishment for those involved. Jeffrey Young, VOA News.
Well, after cancelling a planned direct meeting, the White House says President Barack Obama will likely have some interaction with Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte at a part of a regional summit.
Frankly, where we've had differences with President Duterte has related more to our concerns that there needs to be a clear commitment to due process and the rule of law as it relates to some of the internal security efforts that have been undertaken there. On the alliance issues, we'll continue to work closely with them. We do think, again, it's important, though, that given the serious nature of the issues in our relationship, that leaders seek to create a constructive tone for discussions.
Well, the two leaders had planned to meet on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Laos, but that was before Duterte referred to Obama with a Tagalog phrase that translates into a commonly used vulgar slur about someone's mother, while warning the U.S. president not to lecture him about a deadly crackdown on drug traffickers in his country. Duterte issued a statement Tuesday expressing regret that his comments came across as a personal attack against Obama. Well, in the U.S. presidential race, a new CNN ORC poll shows Republican Donald Trump with a 2-point lead over Democrat Hillary Clinton. Now, Clinton continues to lead in most surveys, but the CNN poll is the latest of several recent national and state polls that indicate the race for the White House is tightening with about 2 months to go until Election Day. Here's VOA national correspondent Jim Malone.
Republican Donald Trump discussed foreign policy in Virginia, but could not resist highlighting the good news in the latest poll.
CNN came out with a big poll. Their big poll came out today that Trump is winning. It's good psychology, you know. It's good psychology. I know that for a fact because people that didn't call me yesterday, they're calling me today. So that's the way life works, right?
Democrat Hillary Clinton still leads in most national polls and in most of the key battleground states where both campaigns will focus over these final 2 months. Clinton went after Trump during a rally in Florida.
And he demeans Muslims and attacks a Gold Star family whose son died in action in Iraq. That's not who we are. So, yes, we have a lot of plans, but we also have values, my friends, and we're going to stand up for American values.
The race is tightening in part because Clinton's weaknesses are in the spotlight, says expert Stephen Wayne.
There are a number of people who don't think that she is honest and trustworthy. She seems to be a very authentic politician in an anti-politician age.
But Trump also suffers from high disapproval ratings, says Gallup pollster Frank Newport.
It's troublesome for both people. I think the Hillary Clinton campaign thinks about it a lot. How can we change her image? But that's hard to do. You know, it's kind of baked in at this point.
Clinton hopes to hold on to what was a big lead in the polls after the party conventions, helped in part by a number of Trump controversies, says analyst Jeremy Mayer.
It is possible that Donald Trump will win this race, but in order to do so, he will have to come back from a larger deficit than any presidential candidate in the modern era of polling. No one has come back as far, as quickly as he now needs to do.
Trump and Clinton are already preparing for the next major event in the race, the first presidential debate set for September 26th. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54. Check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, Nigeria's top political leaders go high-tech to boost the economy. Stay with us.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They tell you what people are talking about. So for an in-depth look at the stories trending high on social media, turn to #VOA. It's not your typical talk show. From politics to pop culture, #VOA brings in the people leading the conversation, engages the audience, and gets answers to your questions. #VOA. Smart talk for smart people.
Welcome back. In business news, Kenya, Nigeria, and 11 other nations have been listed under the lower middle income countries by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. That's according to reports presented at the G20. Now, for more details, Africa 54 business correspondent Jill Malandrino joins us live from New York. Hello, Jill.
Hello. So this report sees agribusiness as having a huge potential impact in Africa and the LDCs. However, it notes that productivity is low and inefficient, but stronger links between farmers and agro-industry and tighter clusters of small producers can enhance supply chain efficiencies, improve access to local and global markets, and increase real incomes of farmers, farm workers, and their families.
Now, is this due to increased access or rather intra-regional trade, you can say?
That is definitely one of the catalysts and one of the big drivers behind the African Union passport. Africa is home to one of the fastest growing middle classes in the world, filled with consumers who are looking for a variety and easier to access goods. Africans are wholeheartedly embracing mobile technology, including banking, and I believe the continent can truly be the world's leader in agribusiness and tech if the right infrastructure is put in place, and business leaders are taking notice now more than ever.
Now, we know that Japan and China have been putting a lot of money to work in Africa. You think this is going to lead to more interest being generated from the United States?
Oh, absolutely. Aid to continental trade to global institutional investment is a theme that we are going to focus on over the next couple of weeks. On September 19th, I'll be hosting a number of panels and interviews for the Africa Investor Conference at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, New York. We'll be meeting with CEOs of African stock exchanges and public and private pension funds based in the U.S. and Africa, as well as trade commissioners. Our focus will be on co-investing between the U.S. and Africa, catalyst for investment, investing trends in Africa. So stay tuned, Vincent, because we're going to be back with some great feedback from the people who put the money to work and invest for and in the future in Africa.
Looks like everybody wants a piece of Africa, and it's good for Africa. Jill, thank you very much for your reporting.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right, that's Africa 54 business correspondent Jill Malandrino reporting live from New York. Now, some young Nigerian tech companies are getting a little help from the government this month. 30 firms competed for a chance to pitch their business ideas directly to the president. 3 of them made the final cut, and each of the winners got a welcome surprise. Chika Udua reports from Abuja.
Ima Okena and his team are still excited. They were one of 3 teams that got to present their business proposal directly to Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari. With the help of Microsoft, the Trackology team developed an easy way for the government to track utility bill payments.
We made a patented process where we put barcodes up on your buildings, and so government or the utility companies can verify real time whether you've paid or not and offer those services.
Their pitches were seen by Mark Zuckerberg, who was on his first trip to Nigeria.
You know, this trip has really blown me away by the talent of the entrepreneurs and the developers in this country, and by the focus on building something that's going to make a difference and going to make a change.
Okena's company and the other 2 finalists each won a surprise cash payment of about $8,000. The government wants to encourage youth techies in hopes of sparking Nigeria's economy, hit hard by low oil prices. Trackology wasn't the only startup competing.
What we make is a web-enabled multi-source energy monitoring device. It's kind of like a utility meter, but it measures power consumption from all the different power sources you have.
We are creating uncommon farmers in urban spaces using container farming.
New public workspaces to encourage tech entrepreneurs are opening up in Abuja.
If you're based in Abuja, if you're based in the north, then you can, pop into Ventures Park, be relaxed, work on your products, and get all the resources, all the backends you need to be able to thrive like, the startups in Lagos, in Africa, in Silicon Valley, in the US.
If the government's hopes are realized, one of Abuja's startups will blossom and become the next Facebook. Chika Odua for VOA News in Abuja.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, innovative fine foods from around the world on display in London. We'll be right back.
C'est apprécié qu'on note aussi quelques anomalies dans le FIET. J'estime que si on doit relever tous les cas d'anomalie, à ce moment-là, il faut être clair. Nous avons eu des comportements de membres parmi les observateurs de l'Union européenne pour lesquels on pourrait dire beaucoup de choses.
With time, the people of Burma can come back to their town.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Haiti Adams-Fitzpatrick. Here's what's trending. Now, if you're watching your weight, you might want to avert your eyes for this one. We're going to show you beautifully decorated cakes from a specialty food fair in London. The food and drinks found here are aimed at the high end of the market, ruling some of us out. These days, luxury food producers in the UK are very concerned about post-Brexit shopping trends, whether buyers will still be happy to pay more for specialist products. Among the delicacies on display are rich cheeses, chocolate chews decorated with artificial pearls, and reindeer moss chocolates. Yes, you heard right, sweets made with actual moss gathered from the woods of Estonia. Chocolate shoes. I'm going to start baking. What could be more British than high tea in China? The middle class, they are flocking to elegant salons serving up English afternoon tea. Just what British tea company Twinings wants to hear. They've seen their exports to China and Hong Kong skyrocket. In the first 5 months of 2016 alone, British tea exports to Hong Kong nearly tripled in value compared to 2 years earlier. Exports to the rest of mainland China have doubled. And finally, we have smartphones, smart watches. Are we seeing the first signs of smart clothing? Researchers at the University of Tokyo have developed a new elastic ink that can be printed on textiles in a single step. The ink is highly conductive and stretchable. Elastic ink is aimed primarily at the personal fitness market for sportswear and underwear. Why not? After an initial rush to jump on the wearable technology trend, the number of users has gone down since 2015. Well, making the technology more efficient and comfortable might be one way to reverse that trend. Well, washing your conductive clothing should be very interesting, though. That is what is trending today. Over to you, Vincent.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Haiti. And that's our show for today. From here, be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. And for more news, tune in to VOA's Evening Radio Show Africa tonight at 1800 UTC and in the morning today. Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching. From all of us, have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. When we break something, we usually expect people to get angry. But what about when we break even? Let's listen.
Break even.
Hey, how is your friend's new business doing?
The first year her coffee shop was open, she barely broke even.
That's not bad. Many small businesses don't even make it to the second year, let alone break even.
Yeah, but she is really hoping to actually earn a profit this year.
Breaking even means the point at which costs and earnings are equal. Breaking even is not the worst thing to happen to a business. That would be going bankrupt. But the point of being in business is to make a profit. So if your business is always breaking even, you may want to rethink your business model. And that's English in a Minute.